this town. I don't know if they can drive anywhere else, but they cannot drive in this town, that is for damn sure. Now this fact used to annoy me quite a bit. I'd find myself laying on the horn and giving obscene finger gestures as much as the next guy. But as of late, I don't seem to mind all of this as much as before. What's more, I now find myself encouraging it. Let me explain. About a month ago, I was in a traffic jam on the way to work. I was in this jam for almost an hour before finally reaching the cause of it. There it was. A car had flipped over the divider and into oncoming traffic. There were police cars, fire trucks, an ambulance, and quite the commotion. Since the car had flipped into oncoming traffic, that's where all this action was. The only reason the traffic had stopped on my side of the road was that everyone wanted to get a good look. My hour delay was caused by rubbernecking, and this started my blood boiling. These fellow motorists had decided to take an hour out of my life! How dare they? And it was only fair that I should get my own look and take the same hour out of the lives of everyone behind me. And it was at that moment that I noticed I had one of those Kodak disposable cameras in the passenger seat. And I don't know what moved me to do it, but I started taking pictures of the accident. Once past the scene and back up 65. I used the rest of the road taking shots of the traffic jam on the other side. Most of the people looked frustrated, but some of them, I swear, had the look on the face of a kid when the circus comes to town. Already late for work, I decided to drop my roll of film off at a 1-hour place so that I could pick them up during lunch. Once I got to work, all I had to say was that there was traffic, and everyone understood. During lunch, I picked up my photos, sat on a park bench, had a look. I whipped through the shots of Cousin Harpo's bar mitzvah, and on to the ones I'd taken that morning. And I found myself staring for a very long time. And then a horrible guilt came over me, and I had to put them away. What had I done? Someone could have died, and I had the pictures. I was tempted to throw them away, but I couldn't. Back at work, I decided to gauge my fascination by showing them to my colleagues. Some of them looked shocked and sickened. And they couldn't stop looking either. What is it that makes us want to stare at accidents? Is it that secret guilt that we're glad it's someone else and not us? Or maybe it's that same trigger reaction that makes us laugh when somebody trips and falls. I don't know. I don't have an answer. After work, I bought an album for my photos. And the next day, I prayed for an accident on the way to work, but there wasn't one. So, I figured if the accidents wouldn't come to me, I would have to go to them. So I went to Radio Shack, and I bought a police scanner. I keep it with me at all times. If I get a good one while I'm at work, all I have to do is say I have to run out for a minute, and I'll rush to the scene. They know what I'm going to do, and they don't complain, so long as I save the glorious photos for the bulletin board. I have 6 albums now. I met with a publisher the other day about making them into a book. This is all happening very fast, and I'm not sure what to make of it. The The publisher said that my grisly little snapshots will make an excellent coffee table book. Although I'm a little flattered, I feel dirty at the same time. On the other hand, maybe if people can look at the photos in a book, it will cut down on the wait in the traffic jams. Not a chance. Who doesn't want to see it live?
People don't just snap. There are warning signs. And if there are people there to see the signs, well, sometimes they can prevent the inevitable. I had nobody there to do that for me. But what happened was, a few weeks ago, I'm cleaning the closet, and I ran across my old junior high yearbook. Now, I know a lot of people look back to their youth with fond memories, but not me. It wasn't surprising there weren't any autographs, since I really didn't have any friends. But I decided to flip through the pages anyway, hoping to jog a memory or two. God, I should have just closed the book. Better yet, thrown it away. But I didn't. I just kept turning the pages, not remembering most of them, until there he was. That miserable son of a bitch who saw it his mission to methodically ruin my life. It all started out simply. Stupid kid stuff. Calling names, book jobs, kick me signs, wedgie variations, spitting in my lunch, throwing me in the dumpster. One day when I was in the gym, I was taking a shower. He decided to steal all my clothes and towel. He got all his friends together and they threw bars of soap at me. I was black and blue for a month. Well, after that, I didn't want to go to school. So I told my parents I was very, very sick. Well, they sent me to a slew of doctors, spent thousands of dollars on tests, only to find nothing was really wrong with me. So they put me back in school, where I suffered through the rest of the year, graduated, and luckily never saw him again. That is, until I found my yearbook in a box in the back of the closet. And I knew what I had to do. I did some research and found out he'd moved upstate. Everything was planned out in advance. Well, I'm anal like that. The plan was to drive up to where and see what he'd become. Then I'd decide, much as he did me in the playground back when, whether he was worth tormenting or not. Put some rope and rat poison in the trunk, just in case things got ugly. And early one morning, I drove out to his address, watching from across the street. Well, at 8:20, he steps out on the front porch, followed by what I assumed to be his wife and kid. Well, they said goodbye to each other and left in separate cars. I followed him. Turns out he works for an ad agency. So I went up to the receptionist and asked to see him. Well, she said he wasn't there, that he was in a meeting actually, and he couldn't be disturbed. So I drove back to his place. By this time, the wife was back, and alone, having dropped the kid back at school, I guess. Well, I sat in my car and I waited. Waited till she left. Then I followed her while she did the groceries, waiting while she had her car washed. Well, then when she went back home, I waited until she unpacked the groceries, and then I rang the bell. Well, I told her I went to school with Scott. Well, she said he wasn't there, but invited me in. I accepted. Well, she made me a lemonade, and we chatted. Then she calls Scott. Well, he was out, so she left him a message to give her a call. Then she invites me to come with her to pick up their kid, introducing me to him as an old friend of Daddy's. Well, I thought about correcting her. But then I didn't. So she insists that I stay for dinner. She starts prepping. I play Nintendo with the boy. And at 5:20, Scott walks through the door. "Look who's here," his wife says, pointing in my direction. Well, Scott recognizes me with a hearty handshake and a big, "How the hell are you?" Was this the same guy? Well, he looked like him. But as he was mixing us drinks, he kept on calling me this chipster guy. Oh, there was this odd catching up over dinner. It was obvious he'd mistaken me for this chipster character who he went to college with. But I decided to go with it. Not sure what I was doing there all of a sudden. Well, after dinner, we smoked cigars on the front porch, and I decided it was time to leave. "We'll keep in touch, man," he said. Well, I said I would, and started for the car. But then I stopped and turned back. "Do you know who I am?" I said. "I wasn't sure," he confessed. "I thought you were Chipster, but then I remembered his face got messed up a few years back in a car accident." So, he'd been racking his brains out all during dinner, and I was sure he'd forgotten all about me. But then he surprised me. Wait, I remember you. Junior high." I was a real dick. "Yeah, you were," I said. "Well, I paid a price for it," he said without elaborating. But I believed him. Well, I drove home with all the windows open. It was a beautiful night. I wasn't sure just what had happened that day, but somehow things had been set right. There was this warped sense of closure. And even though I didn't get to use the rope and the rat poison, I convinced myself it wasn't about revenge at all. It was about moving on. But I can't help to stop and think one last time. Jesus Christ, can junior high really be that boring?
My parents busted their asses so that I could go to college. They never went. Dad went into the Army after high school, and Mom learned on the job as an inspector at a bubblegum factory. Of course, I couldn't tell them I didn't really care about going to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Find me an 18-year-old who does. But it was the least I could do, so I went. First day of freshman year, I stood in line registering for classes at Newman Hall when some guys whistled at me. I blushed, but expected it. You see, in junior high, I was chubby. By high school, I was normal looking. And by first day of freshman year, thanks to countless hours in the gym and a year and a half of Susan powder and bulimia, I was ready. I was it. The it girl. They all wanted me. And I wasn't surprised. You see, I had been grooming myself for years to become the babe. And I was. They all wanted to get into my pants. And oh, how I let them. Not that I was a whore. I played the games. They all wanted me, and I had the pick of the litter. I did my mother proud by choosing only the right kind of boy. These were my criteria. Either he had to be from the right kind of family, or very, very cute. But then, my rules started to slip. And I started betting C students with skin conditions. I had a lot of boys freshman year. I did them all. That summer I went home and slept almost exclusively with the guy I lost to junior year of high school. After we finished, he'd lie there and boast about his conquest at state. I humored him for as long as possible, but then I couldn't take it anymore. I had to set things straight. "Look," I told him, "I'm only using you for your body." Well, he didn't like the idea of being used, so he left. But what did I care? I'd have my pick of the freshman class come September. But things had changed when I got back to school. See, I wasn't the babe anymore. I was the slut. And I didn't take this very well at all. The same guys who used to whistle walking by me were now rolling their eyes and calling names. Not that I spent sophomore year alone. There was that second string of sophomore boys who weren't ready yet to be studs freshman year, but were ready now. And I let some of them give me the jump. But none of them ever stayed the night. I knew I was damaged goods. This is how the freshman babe becomes the sophomore slut. I tried to change things and hit the books, but it was too late and it didn't take. I found myself on the verge of flunking out and I simply could not let this happen. So I decided not to take this lying down. I mean, if these pricks were going to be any part of ruining my parents' lifelong dream, then I was going to throw their lives a curveball, but fast. I pulled one of them aside in the quad and told him that I had been to the clinic to be tested. He caught on real fast. You don't tell someone you've been tested if the news is good. Please don't tell anyone, I begged him, knowing that this was the surest way to get the news around campus. I could deal with the stigma of AIDS whore. If only it would make them stop for just a minute and think about what they'd done. But guys don't think. After running to the clinic and getting clean bills of health, they made the rest of my semester a living hell. Over Christmas break, I sat my parents down and told them that college wasn't working out. They took it a lot better than I expected, even helping me go through the classifieds. So tell me, why is it that a man sleeps around and he's considered a stud, but a woman sleeps around and she's a whore? What's that all about? The other day I was in line at the DMV and some guy whistled at me. I thought about flipping him the bird or yelling out something crude. But I smiled instead. And hated myself for it.
Every morning, Monday to Friday, I stand there on the platform waiting for the 7:32 with everyone else. This morning, as I was watching the train approach, I seriously considered pushing the person in front of me onto the tracks. Of course, I didn't do it. But I spent the whole hour and 10-minute commute pondering what had come over me. I didn't want to think about it. I tried not to. I opened up my paper to see what was going on in the world. Somebody blown up another McDonald's. Kids shooting each other during recess. Postal workers running amok. None of this was helping very much. Now, I'm not a violent person. I mean, I enjoy the ultra-violent cinema of Tarantino as much as the next guy, but I mean, I know that's just entertainment. It's not really legal. I've never done anything violent in my life. I mean, I'm kind of small animals. I contribute to charities. I volunteer at the soup kitchen over the holidays. But at that moment, on the platform, there was nothing in the world I wanted more than to push the person in front of me, in front of a train, and to their most certain death. I couldn't concentrate at work, which wasn't good since I was supposed to be keeping a major deal from falling apart. Called my therapist, and she was kind enough to fit me in during lunch for an emergency appointment. Well, by lunch, the deal had fallen apart. And I trashed the coffee room. They gave me the afternoon off. I went to speak to my therapist, and I told her what had happened, not just at work, but also on the platform. But it seemed that all she wanted to talk about was whether or not my fellow commuter was male or female. Now, I didn't see how that mattered, so I didn't tell her. The appointment ended. I got a quick lunch and decided to lose myself at the movies. One of those countless end-of-the-world epics that seem to be all the rage these days. And what does Hollywood know that we don't, huh? I mean, why did they keep setting us up for the Judgment Day and then passing it off as entertainment? I didn't want to think about that. I didn't want to think about this morning either. I just didn't want to think about anything. So I decided to get a drink and wait for my usual train. I don't usually drink during lunch, but I made an exception. I ordered the first Manhattan of my life. Found it repugnant. But I tried to keep myself cool. Tried to keep myself the sophisticate that I always groomed myself to be. Just then, this old bag comes over. And I knew that she was looking to just chew my ear off. So I reached into my bag for something to read, but I wasn't fast enough. But she was on to me. And she said, look, if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. I'll just leave you alone. Thank you, I said. Which she apparently took as an invitation to strike up a conversation. Well, I shouldn't complain. I mean, things actually got quite interesting. I wasn't listening to her. She was going on about 3 jobs that she was working and trying to put her daughter through NYU, and assuming I was never going to see her again, I decided to throw the hypothetical past her. Have you ever thought about pushing someone in front of a train? She thought about it for a second while she was nursing her Chardonnay. Sure, she said. Now, I don't know if she thought I was a wacko or was just trying to make me feel normal, but she did. So I paid for a drink. On the train home tonight, we stopped suddenly. Now, trains stop occasionally, a couple of minutes. There's nothing out of the ordinary. But when we were stopped for over an hour, the conductor came over with his loudspeaker to say that there was another train coming and we'd have to transfer to that one for the rest of the ride. Now, that was it. So, the train pulls up, we move over, and as we're pulling away for home, people are looking back through the window at the other train. And right around the front of the first train, there's quite a commotion. This was on the news tonight. It'll be in the papers in the morning. Somebody had been hit. My wife and kids picked me up at the station. How was your day, she asked. Fine, I lied. She had heard on the radio that the trains were running late and asked me if I knew why. No idea, I lied again. After dinner, I locked myself in the bathroom and took a very long shower. In bed, my wife handcuffed me to the headboard. I closed my eyes. Everything was back to normal.
I certainly do hope we can straighten this matter out. A simple misunderstanding, that's all it is. I'm a professional, a manager. I've been with this firm for 17 years. It's all there in my file. Well, where is he? I thought he was supposed to be here. Oh, you want to hear my side of it? I can do that. Fine. My secretary retired, and the temp that replaced her went permanent. Skip, Mr. Walker, that is, I want to keep this formal. Mr. Walker was doing a fine job, and he fancies a future with this firm. I, too, fancy a future with this firm. And though I know these charges are... Well, I grasp the significance. That's all I'm saying. It was a Tuesday, and my husband and I had spent a long weekend on an auto tour, taking in the changing foliage. I was not at all refreshed. It had been quite a trying weekend, but that is neither here nor there and should have no bearing on this matter. As I said, it was a Tuesday, and I invited Mr. Walker out to lunch. That's not a crime, is it? I made a little Evian and Caesar salad. That's what I ordered. He had a French dip and a Dewar's and soda. He asked me why I wasn't drinking, and I said, well, I didn't. Almost never. And never over lunch. But he took the liberty of ordering me a glass of wine, which I didn't refuse. I didn't want to make a scene. There were other colleagues there from International and Creative Services. Didn't want to make a scene in front of Jerry from marketing. His secretary would have it all over the building by end of business day. I don't like to make a scene. Not me. So the wine just sat there. And I finished my Evian as he began his sandwich. And I wanted a refill to go with my salad. But the damn waitress was... excuse my language. The waitress was nowhere to be found. So I took a sip of the wine. Not a sip. Led to a gulp, and then a gulp to a glass, and then a glass to half a carafe. This was all at his suggestion, mind you. He had 3 Dewar's and sodas in an hour and a half, which I do believe is above the legal limit. Let's just say he should not have been operating heavy equipment. Nor should I have, for that matter, but I was not drunk. Certainly not. Tipsy, possibly. But I was not myself. And I think that's important. So I will say that again. I was not myself. As for the incident, he parked on the roof and we took the elevator down to the office. I was giddy. Impulsive. I pinched him. I did. I did it. I'm not denying this. I pinched him. Oh, he pulled away. A trigger reaction. After all, who is used to this sort of thing? Oh, and he blushed. Oh, but I do not see how my actions were unwelcome. And that's the thing of it, isn't it? I mean, he smiled. How if an action is unwelcome? Does a person smile? And as for these proceedings, well, I was shocked, very much so. I mean, if Skip had a problem, I don't see why he just didn't come to me and confront it. I mean, why he went straight to... Well, yes, he certainly has that prerogative. He did what he felt he had to do, and I have to deal with all of this as a result, but I'm not complaining. I pinched his ass in the elevator, okay? Oh, and for this you're gonna fire me? Is that what you're saying? It was an impulse, and no matter how improper it was, I just did it. What price are you suggesting I pay for this action? I mean, don't you see? Don't you see how ridiculous this whole thing is? Yes, I know. You have a job to do. I understand. I have a job to do myself. A job which you are keeping me from doing because of these proceedings. Will you let me do my job? Oh, no. No. Stop. This has gone too far, and I've had quite enough. I will not let you shame me from this place. I will leave with my head held high. And as for Skip, well, I don't know what his motives are, but I wish him the very best. I am a good woman, and that, my fine colleagues, is the bottom line. And if an isolated incident has caused you to put my head on the chopping block, Well, then you leave me no other choice. You will have my resignation on your desks in the morning.
It was just another Tuesday. I picked the kids up from soccer, drove home, and ordered dinner. The doorbell rang, and I expected the delivery man, but it wasn't. It was the police, and they wanted to see me. What about? I asked, and they suggested we continue the conversation down at the station. My husband was most adamant. He wanted to know what the hell was going on. The police escorted us out to my big green Suburban and pointed to a couple of scratches and dents on the passenger side. There had been witnesses, they told us. They had taken down my license plate and given a description of the driver that seemed to match mine. They insisted, again, that we accompany them down to the station. My husband went inside to call our lawyer and a neighbor to watch the kids. The police station interrogation room looked just like the ones I'd seen on TV, right down to the one-sided mirror through which I was sure they were watching me. They pressed record on a micro cassette ready for me to spill my guts, but I didn't know what to say. Not a word, my husband told me, but I assured him I wouldn't know what to say even if I wanted to talk. Our lawyer arrived, caught in traffic, he said. He asked the charges. Reckless endangerment, they said, and went on with a slew of other 25-cent words, all meaning something bad with an automobile. I assured them I am a good driver. You can check my record, not even a speeding ticket, not even a parking ticket. And I don't drive like a crazy person. I know I don't. All my friends tell me they feel quite relaxed when I'm driving. What it boils down to is they accuse me of driving someone off the road. It's absurd. They asked where I had been at 5:30 that afternoon. I picked the kids up and drove home. What was my route? Did I use the highway? Yes, as always. And what happened between exits 21 and 22? I didn't remember, nothing. Wait, no, a fellow motorist gave me the finger for no reason at all. And what kind of car was that person driving? I didn't remember, honestly, but they didn't believe me. Then everyone left the room except my husband and my lawyer, but they were watching me through the mirror, I'm sure of it. My lawyer warned me that these were very serious charges and asked me to remember what I could. He asked what was going through my mind, what wasn't going through my mind. What was I going to order for dinner? Was there anything good on TV that night? How long has it been since my husband and I made love, and was he having an affair? How should I deal with walking in on my son and his best friend playing doctor? Am I wrong to put my mother in a home? How am I going to pay off my visa without my husband finding out? And how would Martha Stewart handle this? But I said nothing. It was all a mistake. I did remember a car. I was sure something bad had happened, but I chose to put it out of my mind. I am a good driver, damn it! Aggressive? Possibly. I have absolutely no patience for old people on the roads. But I continued playing dumb as long as I could, which wasn't easy because I'm a simply awful liar. The police came back. The person in the other car had broken both legs. My lawyer asked if they were going to make an arrest. No, they said. They said they'd be keeping an eye on me and let me go home. I tucked the kids in for the night and joined my husband in bed. He gave me a little kiss, rolled over and turned out the lights. I stared at the ceiling. What had I done? Nothing. Nothing. I put it out of my mind. If denial is the best way to deal with guilt, then so be it. I am a good driver. You believe me, don't you?